Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source, and we help contractors build great teams. I'm excited to have my guest today, Matt Prepis from SmartSites. It's a great name. I think I got it, but it's an awesome name, smartsites.com. And tell me a little about what you do, your background, and how you could help contractors get more business.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, my name is Matt. I'm the Chief Sales Officer at SmartSites. We're a full service digital agency who work with thousands of clients across pretty much every vertical you can think of. We started about 13 years ago, mainly offering SEO as our primary service, but quickly realized that clients needed a lot more than just SEO. We expanded from being, a one-trick pony, really good at that one trick, to being as full service as you could think of, working with clients in home service space, of course, as well as doctors, lawyers, manufacturers, SaaS companies, pretty much anything you can think of. And I think a big thing about us is, our ability to help our clients for them specifically. So not just a generalized plan that will work for anyone, but something that's going to help that individual business. So excited to be chatting and sharing some of our ideas.
Great. Now, Matt, some people, I've had other, guests on the show, and they said, well, we just do, whatever, home service, or we just do, roofers in Tennessee, or pick one, right? So their argument is, we're specialized, so we're better. Now, I'm sure you've heard that objection before. So why don't you tell the audience why being specialized isn't necessarily better?
Yeah. So, nothing against companies that specialize in one field, like marketing agencies for roofers or marketing agencies for home service as a general, accord. However, what I've seen, at least from the brands that I've interacted with, is if they're only doing, let's say, SEO or paid search for roofers, you're basically going to get a cut and paste of the same strategy that they did for the same roofer that they signed on the week or the day before, and the roofer that they signed on, a year before. So you're essentially getting a templated strategy that maybe works relatively well, but is just that it's a template. Whereas with us, whether you are a roofer, a plumber, a doctor, or a lawyer, we're going to research your brand, your business, your competitors. We're going to see and find a strategy that's going to make sense for you based on your area, based on your services, based on your unique, value proposition. And that's how we're going to build our strategy. It may take a little bit longer than the company that's done it 100 times, the month before, but at the end of the day, I think it'll be a bit more tailored to what they're looking for.
So it's just not going to be a template they use with all roofing companies, sort of, right?
Absolutely.
So in this case, you're saying bigger is better, right? Because a bigger company, you've got more assets, more resources. I'm assuming, in general, more knowledge of the industry because it's changing all the time. And you feel that's an asset for your client as opposed to dealing with two guys in a truck.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question. There are certainly pros and cons to working with a larger or smaller agency. With a small agency, you're more than likely one of a handful of clients that they manage. So maybe you're a bit more well-versed with the entirety of that company and, can speak to almost anyone there and they'll know who you are, who your account is. Whereas sometimes with a huge agency, you essentially become just a ticket number or, something like that, where you're identified by your company name, not necessarily the person that you're working with. With us, I think we are a pretty good hybrid. While we are at 400 employees right now, we do have really good customer service. And while a big part of what's made us successful is, of course, the results we've gained for our clients and our ability to help them scale, another big part of it is our customer service, our ability, which sounds like a simple or small thing, to call you back or email you back in a timely fashion, make sure, you're responded to in a quick fashion, and that you have a person that's working on your account and not someone who's, being transferred between person to person is a big importance for us, and making sure the client's happy with who they're working with.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't have grown to that big if you weren't good at what you do. I always look at it that way, right? So
Fair
you
enough.
must have made somebody happy. So let me ask you some questions. There is a lot of, we call it distrust in the digital marketing space, because a lot of people have tried it, it hasn't worked. I think one of the big complaints I get from our clients is, well, I talked to my marketing agency and they show me all these, statistics, and I've gone up here and gone up there and give me this whole dashboard of statistics, but I haven't got any leads. So like, statistics don't pay the bills. So how do you answer that question?
Yeah, that's definitely an important part of it because, yeah, I can get you more traffic, but if you're not getting phone calls or calendar bookings or booking jobs, then it doesn't mean too much. And what I say to clients when they're trying to figure out where and how they should invest their budget, primarily, for lead generation, the two main services are going to be SEO, so the organic way to improve your search rankings, and paid search, paying to be at the top of Google, for example. And if the immediacy is, hey, I need, right now it's the going into the winter time, and after November, I can't really take on jobs because I don't service anything after that time. I might say in the short term, let's focus on paid search because we can do a very targeted campaign about whatever service you're trying to promote in a very specific zip code or area that you're trying to target. And hopefully that'll turn into phone calls and jobs. Whereas with SEO, it's going to be, no matter how good the company you're working with, a bit more of a, blanketed approach where you will see, organic traffic increases over time. But if you're trying to book jobs now, it's not going to help you in, the next month or two. And the other thing to note is a big part of it of SEO is making your site an authority or resource. So you might get people who find you because you wrote this awesome piece about the top 10 tips for your next, roofing job. And that person may be in your geo target, or they might be someone who's doing the research who's elsewhere. So there's definitely gives and takes about how you're going about the approach. But yeah, you have to really understand how you're budgeting and what to expect from each budget.
Okay, now this is a question that comes up from one of my clients is, well, is there a reasonable return on investment you can expect to see from your marketing budget, and how long and what should that be?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit all over the place, especially in the home service community, because I've worked with, plumbers who just do emergency services. It might be a one-off job that costs, or that they charge $250 to $500, one time. I've also worked with people who do kitchen remodels. That might be a 20 to 30,000 job, or a roofer who might have a $10 to $20,000 job. And a part of their return calculation is not just how many jobs they book, but what the average kind of, markup on their job might be. If they're charging $20,000, they're not making $20,000. How much are they making off of those returns? But in terms of expectations, the only part that we can control is, the traffic that you're getting, the leads that you're receiving. What happens after that is definitely helpful for us, because on paper, exactly what you said, hey, we saw this increase in traffic, and let's even take it a step further. We saw this increase in phone calls and contact requests. So we did our job, we're happy. And then the person might come back to us and say, yeah, but out of those 20 leads you got us last month, we actually booked one job. So it's good for us to know and understand which ones you didn't book and why. Were they looking for the wrong service? Were they in the wrong geographic target area? What was it about them that didn't fit your profile? And what can we do better the next month to hopefully kind of refine the process? So it's a continual refinement. Usually on the paid search side, I'd say 3 months is probably a good time to get a motion kind of well running and well oiled. Does that mean you're setting and forgetting after month 3? Definitely not. You're always making improvements and adjusting and making things better. With SEO, it's probably 4 to 6 months before you even start seeing any sort of returns on the traffic increases. So SEO is certainly a much longer, game. Paid search, you can see some wins in the short term, but if done well, you can easily scale it.
So now you're a large agency. Let's say I'm going to spend, pick a number, 30,000 years, or pick something. Okay. What can I expect to see as return on investment? If I give you 30,000, how much should I expect back in gross profit, or in this case, net profit, that makes it worthwhile? Because I mean, looking good, and my friends telling me they saw me on whatever, that's all nice, but it all comes down to, did I get work from it? So if I'm spending money on a marketing plan or a marketing agency, I would expect some kind of return on my investment, or I wouldn't do it. The question is, I don't know what I don't know. So what's a reasonable return? Is it 50%? Is it 30%? I mean, you've done this for a while. What do you tell clients?
The hard thing about throwing out a number like that is it's just so different per vertical. So there are even free tools out there that I recommend, our clients use and see. We do it for them as well as part of kind of our research and strategy process. But if they want to see it for their own eyes, they can. It's a free tool. It's called Google Keyword Planner. And with this tool, you can input, your geographic location. So let's say you're targeting the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or, I'm here in New Jersey, so the Bergen County area. You can set either cities or counties or radiuses, and then from there you input your keyword. And the interesting thing about it is a plumber, let's say, who does emergency services, might cost more, in northern New Jersey than it does in southern New Jersey. Same exact keyword, same state in this example, and they might be radically different, to the tune of 2x. Again, just an example. And then, of course, looking at not just different areas, but different keywords, a roofer is going to cost, or the roofer term is going to cost different than the plumber term. So, let's say one service might be $10 per click, another service might be $100 per click. So that same 30,000 is going to go wildly different in terms of farness, depending on the service, depending on the location. So what I do, basically, long story short, is find out, what service you're trying to promote, what areas you're trying to target, look at your site, and based on those three things, I can tell you, all right, this is what the cost per click might be. Based on your site, this is what I think the conversion rate will be. How many people are actually going to call you or fill out a form based on your site? And from there, you can kind of input your other numbers. All right, I know I'm going to close 3 out of 10 people, so I can factor that into my conversion rate. So there's a lot that goes into it, and very, tailored per client, even per location.
So back to the same question. If I spend $30,000 on marketing, can I expect to see somehow that from my marketing efforts with your agency or whatever agency I'm using, I can see, okay, I got, pick a number, let's say my margin's 10%, just like it, right? My net. So I would expect to spend 30,000 with you, and through the course of a year, get 300,000 in business in order to make it justified, right? Because I at least want to get back what I spent. Is that a reasonable, request? Get back twice what I spent? What's fair and reasonable when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a very reasonable kind of thought and process in terms of calculating backwards to what you need to be successful. And I would say most clients, if they're not seeing a return, they're not going to renew with us, or not going to renew with any agency. So our goal is to make the campaigns as efficient as possible, get you the best return that we can, given your industry, given your website, given what you're offering. And if we can do that, usually we have a client for life. If we can't do that within 6 to 12 months, they're more than likely going to either stop the initiative or maybe find another agency that might, or who they think might be able to do a better job. Even though we'll tell them, hey, the numbers for you are going to work out like this. We told you this in the beginning. You wanted to keep going regardless, but here's kind of the reality of where we're at now. But our goal is, of course, to maximize the spend and maximize the return from that spend. So
having done this well, I think expecting twice the amount in profit that you spend on an agency, I don't think it's unreasonable. Like if I spend 30,000 on you, I want to make 60,000 back. And that's not, you think that's reasonable?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Which is a good investment. Anything you put 30,000, 60,000 back, I'd do that all day long, right? So now, Max, what would be, I know it changes with every company and home service versus remodeling, whatever. How does one determine how much money I should spend? Let's say I'm a $3 million remodeling company or $3 million home services company that does roofing. How should I determine what's an appropriate amount to spend on digital marketing?
Yeah. So with SEO, it's a little different because, whether you're investing 3,000 or 5,000 a month, it's still gonna be that same timeline of return where it's going to take you 4 to 6 months to start seeing that SEO traffic and the actual traction in place. So for me, I would usually say, hey, let's be less aggressive in the beginning with SEO, because I know no matter how much you're spending right now, it's going to be a long upwards battle. With paid search, I take a little bit of a different approach personally. Not, every person has the same approach, but for me, I usually say start where you're comfortable, which for most people in the home service agent space who haven't done ads before, usually they'll start around like 3,000 to 5,000 a month. And my conversation with them is exactly, what you said. Hey, if I can show you in 3 months that you spent 5,000 and you got back 50 leads, let's say that was your goal, and you're happy with that cost per lead number, the leads were quality. If you have the capacity, if you have the team, why not in month 4, once we've hit this goal, start spending 10,000 on advertising. And if we can still get you that same $100 cost per lead, is that going to work for you? And some clients say, yeah, absolutely. I have 3 trucks now. I want to have 30 trucks in 2 years. Other clients might say, hey, I'm a one-man shop. I can only do 10 jobs a month, and that's all I have the time and capacity to do. So if you give me 10 jobs, like that's all I need. So it's really different per client. And I love to have conversations with both, but the exciting ones are the ones that are looking to scale and grow their business.
Okay. Now, so let's say you come up with a number, whatever that is, with each company. I'm going to say I've heard between 2 and 10% of gross, and it goes all over. The next question is, there's a lot of confusion about AI. And now there's some confusion about Google, like, is Google getting hit for being a monopoly, right? Because they sort of have a monopoly on the search business. I mean, whether they admit it or not, it's true. Now, maybe ChatGPT and a couple others, and Perplexity, or give them a little bit of run for their money. Where do you think that's going? Because you're in the middle of this. I'd like your opinion.
Yeah. So very recently, ChatGPT released a new product called SearchGPT. It's similar to what a lot of the other businesses are doing, where they have some sort of integrated AI search, where instead of you having to dig through search results, it gives you what they think is the best response to that answer. But for me, what I've found is businesses that are not going to be affected by this, at least, this is my interpretation, are companies like home services. Because if I go to Google and I search for, best roofer near me, I might get that AI result that you're seeing nowadays. Like, here are the 3 roofers that are, the best in your area. And one, that is still to an extent controlled by SEO content. So are you being linked from the right places? Do you have the right content on your website that's going to help you show up in those places? But 2, even if they see this result that tells them who they think the best company is, whether it's on, Google's AI search or SearchGPT or Microsoft's Pilot, they still have to click into that site. They still have to call the person to book the job. So AI is definitely helping a lot. I think the businesses that have been suffering the most are the ones that are purely informational websites, because if I'm looking for, like, let's say, a definition to a question or an answer, I get it right there. I don't need to click into a site. So you are going to be seeing, and you probably already have seen in the past year, a huge drop off in clicks to your site if you're in that type of business. But home services, for me, I don't think are going to have a major effect, because people are still going to need roofs. They're still going to need plumbing fixed. And the way to find them right now is going to be through the web. Google is definitely going through a lot right now in terms of those, antitrust hearings, but I don't think they're going to be gone, in 5 to 10 years. I think it might be evolved in a big way, but they'll still be around in some shape or form.
Okay, so it means that they still on the market and Google's still it for a while, right? Clearly.
Yeah.
Now, next question, what about using AI? I've heard AI produces blogs, AI does all this stuff, and other people say, no, Google doesn't like AI. I've heard both. I mean, one marketing guy will say, hey, I put everything in my AI, I produce a blog a day, it's amazing, you'll love it. The other guy says, hey, AI sucks. We don't use AI because Google doesn't like AI, and we do them all by people, in wherever they are, in Venezuela or someplace, writing blogs for you, and it's X amount of blog. What's your opinion on that subject?
Yeah, I think AI, like anything, is a tool that can be used well or be used poorly. I've heard very similar stories. I even had a friend who created this veterinary resource, basically like, can my animal eat this website? And he, for every day for 2 months, he was creating these long form pieces of content with these little prompts saying, like, hey, can my dog eat yams? Can my dog eat broccoli? And it would probably, research a few different resources and create this piece of content. And actually it started ranking pretty well. But after, I think, maybe 2-3 months of successes, it got shut down because it was flagged for the chat or AI content. So it had some short-term wins, but long-term, not going to be a good strategy. And then in terms of using, let's say, that for content creation, I think it can be helpful. The way we've been using it more often than not is for research purposes. So let's say historically, part of our strategy would be blogging. Let's say, one, blogging has changed a bit, where, let's say, a typical practice might be 500 words a few years ago. Now, in order for that same sort of content to rank and be authoritative, you might need to bump it up to 1,000 or 1,500 words. So the actual content you're writing has changed, but our approach to planning and writing that content also has changed. Whereas before we would look at your site, look at your competitors, look at some other kind of just general websites in the space and try and find you 20 topics for blogs that we think would make sense. And then we go back and forth with you, which ones, fit your profile, your services, your customers, what are they going to like? What are they not going to like? And then come back to you with another set of revisions, another 10, another 20 ideas. And that would be, maybe a week of back and forths. Now with good prompting, we can come to you, a day later and say, hey, based on our discussion, I put together 20 ideas, and that 20 ideas will have taken us, a few minutes to create, as opposed to a few hours of sitting down with coffee and sitting here from my desk
Right.
and, really thinking, hashing things out. Are we at a place where it can totally replace human content? I don't think so. And I don't think the content is going to be the same caliber. And you can almost see if you read AI content that it was, generated by AI. They use a lot of very strange verbiage that doesn't just sound like natural human language. It's getting better, and I'm sure it will continue to get better. But right now, I don't think it's there yet.
Okay. So you say use it as a tool, but don't have it right in your blog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you do have it right, make sure it's heavily edited by a real person.
A real person, and you just don't publish it without somebody looking at it. Okay, that makes sense. So question, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it? My guess is everybody listening to this podcast either has a marketing agency or is wondering about getting one. Those are the two categories, right? They have a marketing agency, they may not be happy with the one they've got because it doesn't produce the results they're looking for. If they don't have one, they're going, should I really spend the money or not? Does it make any sense? So if they reach out to you, can they help answer those questions?
Yeah, absolutely. They can either give me a call at the office. My number is 201-870-6000, extension 303. Honestly, I'm super responsive via email. So if they shoot me an email at matt@smartsites.com, definitely happy to get in touch with them. And we can offer, free audits. If you're doing SEO or paid search, I can audit your website from an SEO perspective, give you some ideas about how we might approach your SEO strategy, what deficiencies you may or may not have. And then same thing in the paid search. If you're running Google or Facebook or any other sort of ads, we can take a look at them and say, hey, whoever is working with you now, they're awesome. They're doing a good job. They're in there 5 times a day or 10 times a week, making changes. The strategy is solid. Or it can be like, hey, you know what? Whoever's managing it actually hasn't touched it in 3 months. They've spent all your, money on these terms, which are irrelevant to your business. We think it's better for you to pause your campaigns. Whether you choose this or not, that's up to you. But here's why we think, you should at least take a pause on it and make some changes. So
Right.
happy to provide advice to any of your listeners that might be looking for a conversation.
Because if they're like me, they're probably an owner and they don't even know what they don't know, right? I mean, it's like they have no clue. They throw money at something and hope it works, but they don't know how to tell whether it's working or not. And I think you're a professional there. So my suggestion is it doesn't hurt to find out. If I were listening to this podcast, say, well, I'll give Matt a call. He can look at what I'm doing and at least give me an objective opinion, because I don't know whether it could be better or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to just have conversations and give people my thoughts and advice. Whether they choose SmartSites or not, that's up to them, but we'll give, the same feedback regardless.
Okay. Well, thanks, Matt. I appreciate being here. And I think if you have any question about whether your, marketing dollars being well spent, I give Matt a call.
Awesome. I appreciate the opportunity, Paul. Have a great day. And thanks to the listeners for hearing us today.
Thanks, Matt.